And recording. Good day, my phantasmagorical friends. And I'm going to be reviewing a short story for you for the online writing workshops and events by Adam Z. Robinson Facebook group. I read that out in full because I hope if I manage to succeed in recording this in one take, to share it on my YouTube page. And I strongly recommend that anybody who's interested in following my YouTube page or any of my Haunted Hours social media and is interested in ghost stories, writing in general, their own writing, follow the online writing workshops and events by Adam Z. Robinson page on Facebook. This will be going up as the Advent reviews leading up to Christmas on Wednesday the 7th of December 2020. And for my review, I have chosen to review a short story by a good friend of mine and fellow weirdo, J Craig Melia. It's not publicly available. It's published in this anthology here, an anthology called Light, which is published by Twisted Fate Publishing. And all proceeds from this publication go to the mental health charity Mind. So it is a worthy cause. You can find it on Amazon if you search for it. It's a collection of I wouldn't necessarily call them horror stories, ghost stories, but weird stories, that kind of theme. But I think you'll probably get a feel for the collection if I move on and tell you more about Craig's story. Now, because it's not in the public domain, Craig has given me permission to read it out to you. So before I actually give my review, I'm going to read Lights Out by J Craig Melia. Excuse me. They gather only in the dark. Drawn in towards the jaundiced light of the street lamp, I can see their outstretched shadows gyring out of the encircling blackness. I watch their movement, peering out unobserved through a crack held open in the blinds, holding my nerve as long as I am able. Some movement in the glow of one of the lamps further down the street catches their attention and they move on. I drop the blind at the speed of them. I'm so afraid. Closing the heavy curtains, I back away from the window. Only now can I risk lighting my room. Calm. Takes a moment, but my heart rate levels back to normal. The low grumble in the pit of my stomach returns my attention to the room. Choosing a random tin from the pile, I carefully open it so as not to spill its contents. I'm pleasantly surprised that it's one of the black cherry and syrups. From the lucky dip of tins, black cherry and syrup is always a moment of sweet, sticky delight. Moments. That's all we really are when it gets down to it. Sometimes we're pickled beetroot, sometimes black cherry and syrup. With practice, I've mastered the ability to scrape a tin completely clean, devouring every morsel of nourishment contained within. Pleased with myself, I placed the empty vessel onto the small pile of discarded metallic husks. Tomorrow, or the day after, I shall carry them down the long corridor to the hatch. I startle at the sudden sound as rain staccatos against the window. It rains most nights now. Time to settle for the night. I unroll my thick woolen blanket, wrapping it around my body. Lights out. My dreams are filled with memories, fitfully flitting between moments of my life. The family garden, the scent of flowers, the warmth of the sun, freshly baked food, mother reading from a thick book with a dark brown cover, a book of myths and folk tales. I remember pleading for one more story at the conclusion of each, and her laughter as she shook her head. No, time for sleep now, she'd say. Now is the end. I'm still a young child. I'm reading a book I once had, illustrated with all manner of creatures. I read of one that swims in the cold, dark depths of the ocean, luring prey with a luminescent spine to within reach of its terrible jaws. Older now, but still a youth. It's the walk back home. In my dream it is totally silent. The scuffing of my shoes on the asphalt makes no sound. This is the point that I hear the call of some night bird above me in the darkness. But in my dream, only silence. Still, I look up to where it had been. Only a small, clear patch of sky revealed the tiny pinprick of starlight surrounded by clouds. It was here, this place, here that I saw the first, here on the road between my home and my uncle's house. A dark shape that drifted and darted in and out of the pale cone of lamplight. I recall the thought that it was fabric billowing in the breeze until it shifted and began circling the periphery edge of the light. Transfixed, not even daring to breathe, I watched its movement. And then it shifted toward the next lamp, and then the next. I waited there long after it had moved off, remaining deep within the shadows. I slowly made my way home. In the final part of my dream, I was alone, standing in a wide, empty darkness. No sound, no features, a vast expanse of nothing. Fear, like all trauma, leaves its mark. Sometimes that might be an open wound, sometimes scarring. Fear is something that will creep into every part of your being, burrowing beneath the surface. Isolation, the feeling of complete loneliness, is the fertile ground of our fears. Above me, the sky cracked open with a deafening roar, and I watched, a piercing light permeating the darkness. Jolting awake, the room seems to shake. A couple of cans clatter from the pile behind me, and the rhythmic beating of the rain against the window jars with the pounding in my chest. It takes a moment for my mind to return to full consciousness. A flash lights up the heavy curtains before fading back to darkness, followed a few moments later by a low rumble. Storms always make them crazy, swarming together into ever larger groups. I try not to think about them. Peering through a small gap in the blinds, rain distorts the view, such as it was. Despite the constant downpour, I can make out the street lights, but little else in the darkness. A sudden burst of light expands to fill the sky, illuminating the street below. Scanning the view, I can see the dark shape of one of the trees, now angled inward toward the building. I try to tilt my head closer to the window for a better view, but the light is already fading away. From the position it leans at, the trunk is aiming towards one of the next rooms along. Moving over to the door, I twist the cover on the viewing circle. The lights of the hallway are still lit. Shouldn't be any surprise there. They are designed to never go out. That, and the rubber seal on the door, means even if the room were compromised, the rest of the building would remain secure. Still, it is reassuring seeing that light and the small section of the corridor beyond the door. Another lightning flare, counting the moments before the peal of thunder, and at the end, something else. I listen in the silence, trying to spread my breathing out over longer periods. But nothing. Only after the next flash and rumble of thunder can I hear it again. Before the thunder ends, 3 distinct bangs. I wait a third time, and again, as the thunder rumbles towards silence, bang, bang, bang. The sound is coming from inside the building. Taking a deep breath, I push the door handle down, hearing the soft click of the mechanism. I gently pull, the rubber ceiling around the door rasping open. As much as I try to make no noise, the rubber ceiling scrapes across the floor. I stop when the door is wide enough for me to tilt my head round, my eyes scanning the empty corridor. A faint smell hangs in the air, earthy, smoky. A slight sweetness on the tongue, something else I can't quite place. Another roll of thunder, punctuated at the end by the same 3 sounds, but there is more of a clanging, metallic ring to them now. The urge to silently close the door is overwhelming. Fear, self-preservation, cowardice. The impetus doesn't matter. So easy. But then another sound, a human sound. Quiet, but it echoes softly along the walls of the hallway. I don't know what makes me step out through the doorway, but as I still hold tightly to the handle, I strain to hear. Tilting my head, I take a step closer. Recalling the phrase, "The first step is the hardest," I imagine in some cases that might be true. But sometimes each and every step is the first one. For one terrible moment, the lights above me flicker, stopping me in my tracks. After a brief hum, the section of hall is illuminated again. The 3 knocks sound from the door just ahead. I've missed the sound of thunder, so their sound seems to come from nowhere. I can hear words clearly now, as a voice from inside the room quietly begs for help. Is someone there? I consider a response, but no words come to me. Through the door, I pick up the low rumble of thunder from outside, followed by a scrape of metal. The person in the room has been using a tin to bang with. Before they have a chance to knock, I speak loudly enough that they'd hear. "I'm here," I say. Words of relief and gratitude tumble out. We speak in hushed tones. I ask if they're hurt. The window is smashed in. Can't open the door. The light from the corridor. I know they are right. If the room is compromised, opening the door would shine a beam out onto the street beyond. A beacon in the darkness. The voice trails off for a moment. "Thank you for coming to talk to me. I felt so lost here, so alone." looking back down the corridor toward my still open door and the sanctuary of the room beyond, I think of black cherry and syrup. Just moments. "Are you still there?" pleads the voice. "You're not alone," I tell the voice behind the door. Now is the end to fear. I repeat to myself beneath each breath a mumbled 6-word mantra. Pushing the handle down until I hear the faint click of the mechanism, I place my hands on the smooth metal of the door, feeling the weight of it shift. Now is the end to fear. You see, I love that. What did I like about it? We never really discover what there is to fear. It's left very, very strongly to the imagination. I mean, it's clearly quite apocalyptic. It affects everybody. It seems to affect the entire world, but we're never told what it is. But, the language, the anticipation, there's a lot of emphasis on sound. I know this is something that Craig likes to play with, but the creation of it's a purely psychological fear. You don't know what it is. You're brought into the world of the protagonist here through their memories, their life before the events that destroyed their world, and the life they're now living. But what those events that were and what it is that they're afraid of are left entirely to your imagination. I think that's just brilliantly done. And then, right at the very end, you just have this moment of hope. It's almost completely the opposite of a slasher horror, or it's I don't know. It's something I would like to see quite a lot more of. I think it was extremely cleverly done, and I know I'm biased, but the idea of playing with the uncanny, the weird, that sense of psychological horror, and then leaving you on that note of admittedly ambiguous, but hope. And I think on this 7th day of Advent, I think that's possibly a good note to leave you on. Good night.